Hi, everyone. Today I have with me two friends from Twitter, all the way halfway across the world. On one screen, we have Al Liebenberg from Johannesburg, South Africa. How are you tonight, Al?
Terrific, terrific, Cari. Thank you.
Good. It's not time
How are
there.
you?
It's daytime for me. I'm doing fantastic. And on another screen, we have Sheldon Wiggle from Cape Town, South Africa. How are you tonight, Sheldon?
Great, Cari. Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. My privilege and pleasure. So, gentlemen, tell me what is going on politically in South Africa these days. We are seeing a lot of upheaval in our media, and we just want to know from your point of view. You live there. What is going on?
Great.
Really?
Al,
Nice.
you shoot first, Al.
All right. Yeah. Let's take a couple of steps back. We have very interestingly, I got interested in American politics when I started noticing on Twitter that we were getting exactly the same complaints and comments from Americans that I was getting from my fellow South Africans regarding our governments under Obama, of course, in your case.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what got me interested. I'm not sure if Sheldon had a similar experience, but if I didn't know who I was reading, I couldn't tell if it was a South African tweet or an American tweet.
Really?
The same kinds of corruption and complaints about incompetence and very, very broadly speaking, very similar sorts of situations. Of course, our government is very different.
Yep.
We have this character called Jacob Zuma, who's completely unschooled. We're a couple of statesmen down the road from Nelson Mandela, who everybody, the name you guys would all recognize.
Right.
Following him, we had a chap who was actually very well educated, a guy called Mbeki.
Mm-hmm.
Thabo Mbeki was had a couple of degrees and a smart man and quite the statesman. He was essentially ousted by this Zuma character, who was actually a big shot in national intelligence, and it transpired that this guy knows where all the skeletons are buried, and he surrounded himself with a bunch of people as corrupt as he is, and we. Probably at this point have the dubious honor of having the most corrupt president and government in the world, or it must be pretty damn close. What would you say about that, Sheldon?
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. I think you've summed it up very nicely there. We're a long way down the road from the days of Mandela being president.
Mm.
We've reached the point now where we are being regarded by the world as a banana republic.
Mm.
So we've come in a short period of time, descended quite quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't take long.
No, it didn't.
By the way, for those who geographically don't know, Sheldon and I have never met. We're also Twitter friends as much as we are with you, Cari.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about 1,000 miles apart.
Mm.
In here in South Africa, me being in Joburg, him down in Cape Town. I was actually born in Cape Town, by the way. Beautiful city. But yeah, about close to 1,000 miles apart.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So
Sorry,
here we are. Here we are on Skype. Here we are, friends from Twitter. What would you say are other than the corrupt government that's currently in power, what would you say are the other major challenges that South Africa is facing today?
Cari, I'd say that unemployment I would say unemployment is a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
Very high unemployment rates, very high youth unemployment rates. That's a massive problem. Education is a huge problem as well. We've got a situation where, much like in the States, again, a failed. We don't have Common Core, but we've got we've got the equivalent of Common Core, state-run education. The government making promises to roll out high-quality education to everybody free of charge. It hasn't worked. The opposite has happened. The education has gone down. So you've got this large group of young people who are essentially not only unemployed, but are unemployable. They don't have any skills. They've got the education that they do have isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Mm.
So, you've got this large group of people who are essentially unable to contribute to the economy.
Yep.
In any way or form. And you've then got a government who is making promises to these people that they cannot keep. And basically what has happened is we now are in a situation where about 5 million people are taxpayers within a country of 50 million. 5 million are taxpayers, and approximately 20 million people are living on social welfare, paid for by the 5 million people who are taxpayers. So, it's again, Al mentioned similarities to the States, to America. This is the kind of thing that you and people who share your type of views fear in America, of creating this huge welfare state where a whole lot of people are not working and not contributing, and a small group of hardworking people are essentially paying for everybody else to live off the fat of the land. So that's where we're at right now.
Right. And where do you say, are you past that tipping point? Do you think, what percentage are working and what percentage are not?
Well, Al, you probably know better than I do. I think the official unemployment rate is 26%, but it's closer to 50%. I mean, again, they fudge the numbers just like in the States, Obama fudged his numbers as well. So there's a large group of people who aren't even seeking employment. Of those people who are in formal employment, it's not a lot of people as a percentage of the population.
Yeah, and it's further exacerbated by the education situation that Sheldon was talking about. I firmly believe that this government has intentionally kept people unemployed. It's a strategy. It's the only way they can buy votes with a bag of groceries and a T-shirt once every couple of years. And we do have a very, very illiterate majority in this country. People who honestly, outside of just really working with their hands in the most basic way, have no skills whatsoever.
Right.
So it's going to take a couple of generations to get better once it starts to get better. But at this point, we've been going backwards. Quite frankly, people were being educated better under apartheid than people are being educated now.
Oh dear.
So, liberals will lose their minds hearing me say that, but that's just the fact.
Yep. That's just the fact. Yep. Okay, so you've got a large segment of the population, as Sheldon said, unemployed and unemployable. But don't you also have an immigration crisis similar to the United States?
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Well, as states fail north of our borders, we being South Africa, we're on the southernmost tip. We've got nowhere to go, and South Africa really was the success story in terms of being the first world country in a third world continent. So people from all over, especially sub-Saharan Africa, would just travel south until they arrived in the land of milk and honey, which used to be South Africa, looking for employment.
So what's your border like?
Yeah, that's right. And I think just to add to that.
Yeah. I was just going to say, is there any kind of
touching on that,
security on your border at all? I mean, is it just wide open? There's nothing.
Our borders used to be very tight.
There are rivers with crocodiles.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we actually are thinking about that in Texas too, along our border.
Yeah.
A lot of people have proposed that, so maybe we can borrow some South African crocodiles from you guys.
You're welcome.
Alligators work.
Okay, but you've got this immigration problem, and so right now the border is not secure?
The border is not secure. It's a massive border. I mean, South Africa is the size, to put it in perspective, is equivalent in size to the state of Texas. So it's a big country with large borders along more than just one country. So we don't just have Mexico like you've got, or north of you, Canada. We've got a number of countries that people can enter from, including Zimbabwe, which is a failed state. So I've heard differing numbers, but apparently there are 5 million Zimbabweans, between 5 and 8 million Zimbabweans in South Africa. Add to that people from countries like the DRC, the Congo,
right?
Other countries that have been torn apart by war, like Rwanda and Burundi. We've got Nigerians, tens of thousands of Nigerians that are here illegally as well.
Yeah.
So it's Mozambicans. Yeah.
And the total population of South Africa is, I understand, maybe this is an old number, about 53 million? Is it
about
more?
that officially.
Officially,
About,
but you
I
think it's
the la-
higher. So it's close to California. Then.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh.
Yeah.
So
So immigration, to answer your question, is a huge, illegal immigration is a massive problem. And again, that's where I'll say that similarities between us and the States. We can see so many things that have happened here where the danger of what will happen to America if the same thing happens there. We can see the parallels.
Right. So both of you were on Twitter. You were recognizing some of the similar complaints from Americans that you had yourself. What do you see as the solution to your predicament as a country?
Leadership. We need a Trump.
You need.
It's what we need.
Yeah.
We need a Trump. I know you won't let us have him, but that's what we need.
Well, I understand. I mean, he's setting an example. Do you think anyone from your neck of the woods will follow it?
Well, I've got to believe that there's. He's a pretty unique character. You're not going to find another Trump. But what is, the expression "setism" that we've all heard.
That's right.
It's happening around the world.
Courage is contagious. That's right.
I'm seeing an increase or an uprising in conservatism.
Okay.
Whereas people are far less intimidated and are more able to speak up. Are you finding the same in the Cape, Sheldon?
Did he freeze, Sheldon?
I think he's buffering. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, there are more.
We can hear you, Sheldon. Go right
ahead.
Oops.
Okay.
Yeah, he's lagging out just a little bit. There you are. Are you back?
I'm back.
Okay, there he's back. He was buffering. Glad to have you back.
Yeah. Okay. I think, definitely it is happening down in the Cape as well. Although Cari, the Cape Town is a very liberal city. It's probably the equivalent of Los Angeles or New York.
Okay.
But there are more people who are speaking out and speaking up. So that is encouraging. But by and large, I think, you'll concur with me, South Africa is an extremely liberal country in many respects.
It is.
The ANC, I think I saw a comment on Twitter recently which summed it up quite nicely. The ANC is what you get if you combine the Democrats, Black Lives Matter, and Marxism, and you throw that all into a party and you create a political party. That's what the ANC is.
No, that's terrible.
So that's who's running our country. Yeah.
Okay, and to exacerbate the problem, tell me about South Africa's media. Tell me where most people there are getting their news.
They suck.
You have fake news there too?
They suck. I don't know what.
Terrible.
It's all fake. You know what? There are no more journalists. Nobody is doing any research. I don't know what the Cape Town papers are like, but certainly, for a start, the South African Broadcasting Corporation is the propaganda arm of the ANC government. Okay. So they're useless.
Okay.
And everybody else gets their news off Sky or BBC or CNN. And our local Afrikaans news channels do no research. They just parrot whatever CNN last said.
Okay, you realize
and I don't know
I'm
about
hearing
the newspapers up there, but out down there, but up here they suck.
Okay, so is the did you say what did you call the main network?
The SABC.
SABC.
The South African Broadcasting Corporation.
Okay, is that state funded?
Yes.
Okay, so that is
it's that
is a taxpayer funded media arm, same as BBC, same as CBC in Canada. This is. Do you realize I'm hearing the same thing from people in Europe that say, like the friend in Belgium said that their Flemish media is copy and pasting CNN.
Absolutely.
And so is some of the journalists in BBC. They've gotten lazy. They're not doing their research, and they're taking what we're calling fake news and they're spreading it all over the world.
Absolutely. On the radio, absolutely.
This is absolutely terrible. So you're on Twitter. and you caught glimpses of real journalism, glimpses of things you see and know are true. Are you how big of how many more people do you think are like you in South Africa? Are some people starting to kind of wake up and trying to find a way around their state-run media?
Well, most people don't watch state-run media.
Oh,
we just don't.
Okay, don't watch it.
My TVs in my home are monitors for hard drives with movies, and I'm plugged into nothing external. Nobody in my house sees the news.
Okay.
Because it's that bad.
Because if it's just state-run. So, but they're getting their money anyway because they're taxpayer funded. So you can turn them on or turn them off, and it doesn't make a difference in their bottom line.
Makes no difference.
Okay.
To own a television, we have to pay a TV license fee.
Oh.
So whether I'm plugged in or not, I've got to pay if I want to own a TV.
Right. So you're just going completely around it. So you're using Wi-Fi mostly to get your information via the internet.
Correct.
I think.
Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm doing the same thing.
I think that this is kind of the way of the future. I think this might actually be how you get past this logjam of disinformation and fake news and propaganda. Is that people are we're like water. We're flowing where we need to go in order to get what we need. I mean, we're just going right around it. So that's
exactly, Cari, and that's it. And also, I think it's also a case of just educating people. Pointing out to them, do you realize you're watching CNN and you're quoting CNN? Do you know that CNN is actually fake news? And people are quite shocked when you confront them on these issues.
Mm-hmm. Now, Sheldon, didn't the Cape Town newspaper actually, on the night of our election, November 8th, because of the time difference, wasn't there kind of a misinformation, a front page that was put out too soon?
There was. They basically, on their front page, the Cape Times published that Hillary Clinton had won the election. That was their headline.
I didn't even know that.
That's incredible. Did you keep a
No,
copy?
I wish I'd kept a copy of it.
Oh,
but
there's got to be a screenshot somewhere.
But the next day, the headline is Trump wins, but we're still with her.
Oh, you're kidding? We're still with her?
How's that for an unbiased newspaper headline? Can you believe it? Yeah.
Man, I tell you.
We, as in the newspaper, are still with her.
The newspaper, we are still with her. Trump wins, we are still with her.
So in other words, she's a loser and we're losers? I mean, I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Probably. I don't think they realized they were saying that, but yeah. No, it's biased, unashamedly biased.
Unashamed. Oh, you're so correct. Al, you look like you're. What happened in Johannesburg?
Well, I don't really watch the local news, but we get the same sort of thing. If I had $1 for every time, well, if I had $1, I'd be rich in South Africa. No, at 13 odd to 1. If I had $1 for every time I said to somebody, "Are you telling me what CNN told you to think, or are you telling me what you think because you watched a Trump rally?" Because I didn't miss one. I watched every single last one. And I know what he said and what he didn't say and what he meant when he said it. Yep. And nobody must take me on that subject. And everybody who knows me knows that. It's been an exciting 2 years. I'll tell you what, it's been really fascinating. I was early. I was encouraging Trump to run before he actually announced in 2015. So I've really been watching this thing closely. And so I've been very, very ticked off with local news and with fake news for a very long time because I could see it unfolding.
Right.
The bias was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you, Al, I've got to ask you. Oh, sorry, real quick. How did you, how were you familiar with Trump in the first place?
He's well known. I own a couple of his books.
Okay.
I'm not having a TV or access to television programs. I've never watched one episode of The Apprentice. Okay. So it didn't come from there. It was this mogul and obviously a very charismatic and interesting person.
Right.
But I liked what he was saying. So I was catching comments of his from very, very early on, and following him on Twitter.
Yes.
Probably from about 2013, I reckon. I think I've been on Twitter since about then.
Mm-hmm.
And the first noises people started making, "Come on, Mr. Trump, run," I was in there. I said, "Yeah, the country," because my introduction to American politics was via the corruption of Obama,
mm-hmm.
and I could see it, and I'm still blown away that people are so uninvolved that they don't see it.
Yeah,
it's true.
That they can see it and not see it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it, but maybe I'm just more tuned into corruption than Americans are, being a South African.
Well, sometimes you can see things more clearly from afar. That is for sure.
Yeah,
that is for sure.
Also true.
Sheldon, you had something to say a moment ago, and I kind of cut you off.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, no, it was just around the whole fake news. People, it's a tool it's effectively a tool that is used to brainwash people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to describe it. Mm-hmm. Because when you speak to people and you hear how convinced they are of their viewpoint, which isn't actually their viewpoint, it's fake news viewpoint, which they've been brainwashed into believing, they are adamant that they are right and they believe the lies. And when you say to them, "But where did he say that?" "Oh no, he saw it he said CNN told me that he said it."
Yeah.
And it's, well, can you show me the clip where he said it? And the people, it really is honestly a brainwashing tool. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
And a very successful form of.
Yep, it is.
I discovered the other day that George Soros has his tentacles in South Africa as well. Sheldon, I don't know if you know this. Gun-free South Africa. I'm a firearm owner, and Soros has what's his organization called? The sort of the broad cover. I forget
he's got like 80 of them. So
yeah,
who knows?
But if it occurs to me and I say it, you'll immediately recognize it. But anyway, this Gun-Free South Africa is underwritten by that organization, which is Soros and his son. I think it's Alexander, is it?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So we've got these guys here as well, stirring the pot. They've got their tentacles everywhere.
They do, but what's the upside for Soros if Africa is gun-free? Or
well, we become sheep for the slaughter, don't we? If we're not armed.
That's true.
A dictatorship doesn't like an armed populace, which is why everybody I know is armed to the teeth.
Oh, good. I certainly hope so. And I hope they have ammunition, too, because that was one of the strategies tried in my neck of the woods, was to buy up all the ammunition so that even if you had a firearm, it was useless. So hopefully you're stocking up on that, too. Okay.
Well, we're a nation that we had conscription, mandatory military service. And I spent 10 years in the South African police, in fact, and most of my contemporaries spent at least 2 years in the South African what is it called, the Defence Force, SADF, in the army, and we were a pretty formidable fighting force. So guys my age and older, and some a little bit younger, I'm 47, are usually militarily trained with firearms. Most of us are and have been exposed for a very long time. Okay. So it would be an unpleasant situation if it ever did become a sort of a war or a civil war.
Right.
It wouldn't be pretty, and it wouldn't be quick.
Right. Okay. Speaking of civil war, tell us how the populace of South Africa. Tell us about that. We're hearing stories of white genocide, and we're hearing lots of civil unrest. Can you tell me what's going on there in that way?
Sure. Sheldon, do you want to take that first?
Sure. Yeah, but maybe just to point out that, generally speaking, the average South African, black, white, whatever the color is, gets on quite happily with people of other color. So, within the workplace, wherever you go, to a restaurant, people are very civil to one another. There's respect. There's not massive on the face of it. There's no animosity or hatred. I would actually go, as I've been to the States, visited the States on numerous occasions, I'd probably go so far as to say that in many respects, people get on better here than they do in the States. I know you have massive issues in the States around race relations.
Yes.
However, it isn't helped by the media, who will latch onto any isolated incident and make that a front page story or a headline news story on the TV news.
Yep.
And that fuels the fire. So they especially with social media, unknown person can post something racist on Facebook, and that'll become a national headline. And that person will then be talked about, instead of people talking about our high crime rate or the fact that we are the rape capital of the world or the murder capital of the world, they'll be talking about some unknown person, some unknown middle-aged woman who's posted something racist on Facebook. And, that's not helping anybody. It's not serving any purpose to go and magnify something which is wrong, but it's not, in the grand scheme of things, isn't a headline story. So I think in terms of race relations, that's where it's at. Maybe, Al, you want to talk about the genocide? I'll give you the easy part.
Yeah, the easy part.
Well, we have an election coming up in 2019. It's 2019, yeah.
Yes.
And we've got a failing government which has nothing left but the race card, and the only thing they have to try to retain power, because the ANC government is seen, to use very blunt language, as the black party. There are, I don't think, any white parties left, but they try to paint the strongest opposition, which is the Democratic Alliance, as the white party. What are these expressions that liberals use when any black person in America is Republican?
From Uncle Tom,
Uncle Tom, and all that. Yeah,
yeah, that's
so
from
whatever.
Yeah.
The equivalent of that is used over here
to
paint that party, which is led by a very, very intelligent black guy by the name of Musi Maimane. This guy's got 3 degrees, one of which is theology, one of which is business, and I'm not sure what the third one is. Is it engineering? Or he's a smart man.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm sure I speak for Sheldon, who does live in a DA-controlled province, which is run better than any province in this country. I would vote for Musi for president any day of the week and twice on Sundays. And I'm sure Sheldon would agree. There's no racism there at all. But that is because we would vote for this guy. The ANC government paints him as being anti-black and pro-white. And all it is there's a smart man who will run things properly. That's the reason nobody controls or owns the guy. Now the genocide, there's this whole generation of young, semi-educated black men, and in fact there's an influx obviously across the border as well. So that doesn't help. Of people who are not at all educated and often prone to violence. So what we're seeing is the farm murders. It's far more dangerous to be a farmer in South Africa right now than it is to be a policeman.
Oh my gosh.
Your chances of being killed as a farmer are many times higher than your chances of being killed on the job as a cop. And believe me, it's not safe to be a cop. But these people are isolated, and there's a really, really ugly side to these crimes. It's as if murder wasn't bad enough. Mike Cernovich was here. I've seen that in YouTube videos where he spoke about these things and interviewed some people who spoke about these same things, and I don't like to even repeat them. It's nightmarish. The torture that these people inflict on elderly on anybody, but including old ladies, old men. It's just hideous. From burning with, I don't even want, it's the worst kind of inflicting of pain that you can imagine, is what is done before these people are often raped and murdered. Just sick.
I'm so sorry. And so this is rampant, right? Are there any solutions, what are people doing about it?
It's being inflamed by this inflammatory rhetoric of the president, who sings. I don't know, Sheldon, if you know the actual words in Zulu, but it's a song that they sing. Bring me my machine gun, one bullet, one farmer. There's this sort of chant. Now, President Zuma at ANC gatherings sings this song.
Oh no!
Yep.
So the official line is that they don't, they find it abhorrent, and not that he would know that word, but they don't approve. But then the reality is, all their actions. When I say the leadership of the ANC and the next party up after the DA is the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, who are a bunch of thugs. These people are the former ANC Youth League, who have morphed into this thing, which is essentially a frothing cauldron of hate, and not doing anybody any favors either. So but leadership is what's required. That would be a damn good start. Yeah. You sure you need Trump for the full 4 years?
We'd love to share him with you. We clone him. I mean, I know a lot of countries that would take a clone for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, we're
any day of the week.
We're hoping, with France, they've got their elections coming up soon. That this courage to stand up is going to embolden people all over the world to stand up to this. I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it's worse than globalism. If you've got people that are being wiped out because they're ripe for the picking, are they after the farms? Is that what they're after? I mean, what is the upside for them? Is it just for sport, or is it they're then stealing the farms from what's happening?
Yeah, they're not stealing the farms. Yeah, they're not stealing the farms. I think a lot of it is purely motivated by hatred. That it is really. I think there's nothing. A lot of the times, these crimes are perpetrated, and they don't even steal anything from the farm. They don't take anything, but it'll be a vicious, violent murder. And I think, just to add to what Al said, it's more dangerous being a farmer in South Africa than it is to be an American soldier in Iraq. The death rate is higher.
Oh my gosh.
So that puts it into perspective. It is a genocide. The liberal media will never refer to it as that. Mm-hmm. They refuse to use the term. Most of them refuse to acknowledge it. But it is definitely a genocide. We've got about 80,000 commercial white farmers in South Africa. And we're the only country in Africa that is self-sufficient in terms of producing enough food to feed ourselves. And the goal is to wipe out these white farmers. The goal is to wipe out these white farmers, take away the farms, and redistribute it to people who don't know how to farm. And effectively, it will become another Zimbabwe if that happens. Because that's what's happened in Zimbabwe.
Exactly. That's following the Zimbabwe model. Yeah. It's a great plan.
So it goes
find the worst failure and do that.
Oh my goodness. So we're talking about the food supply, even redistributing.
Exactly.
Yes, this is huge. This is bigger than I even thought it was, and I appreciate your framing of it for me, because from across the ocean, across the world, I just haven't seen it explained to me this way. So I deeply appreciate it. And is there anything that our listeners, sometimes when you hear a problem, people want to do something? Is there anything you would tell somebody who is listening that wants to do something to help? What would you advise them?
From my point of view, I would say. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
that's a good start.
I would say pray for us. Okay. We've just had. I sent you a link. Did I? I think I sent you a link It's time. We on the 22nd of April, more than 1 million South Africans came together in a central city, Bloemfontein. People came from all over South Africa, under the leadership of an amazing old ex-Zambian farmer who moved here to escape genocide himself 40 years ago or something. And if you ever get the chance, watch the movie Faith Like Potatoes.
Okay.
Faith Like Potatoes. You want to see that movie. But this old chap is still active in South Africa today. And the farmers, the people appealed to him, please, we need leadership. And he got on his knees and he came back. He said, right, God said 1 million of us are going to get together. And it was over 1 million that showed up on this farm in Bloemfontein. For a day of prayer, and check it out on YouTube. It's time Bloemfontein, and take a look at what happened there. It was an astonishing thing, which unfortunately I couldn't attend, but I know many people who did, and so I do believe that I'm an optimist. I believe that there is change coming. I believe that day something shifted. There is a desire among South Africans to stand up for their faith, and that's South Africans of all colors and all sectors, and to get together and to overcome this, because the hatred is being promoted. It's synthetic. It's not real. It's not necessary. It's being promoted. These people, just like you have these lunatics at Berkeley who attack people physically because they've been brainwashed in a certain way. It's the same thing we're dealing with here. They just happen to be black on white. But that's just it can be stopped, and it will stop when we get the leadership we need. So it's a prayer. The prayer was, and the agreement was among everybody there, God, send us a righteous government, and that's what we need.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
Well, I did see,
and I think
I did see aerial photos of the gathering, and it just dropped my jaw.
Okay.
It's so hopeful. So Sheldon.
And the amazing thing was if you compare it to your average liberal gathering in the States, where these marches that happen in DC or wherever, there wasn't one piece of litter left behind, which is quite amazing. If you look at the footage of what those farm fields looked like afterwards, it was as if no one had been there. So that speaks a lot. I firmly believe that says a lot about the people that were there.
It certainly does. It certainly does. That is a ray of hope in a very, very dark picture. We will continue to pray for South Africa, and we want to continue this conversation. As things happen, as things bubble to the surface, if there's things that you would like our listeners to know about, please don't hesitate to call. We would love to chat again at a later time and hear more from you about South Africa. You're on our hearts and minds when you love a country and you love your home, and it's not being governed in a righteous way, and it's a victim of corruption. I feel for you. I feel like we just came out of a dark tunnel, and so I'm hopefully that you can, as a country, do the same. So thank you so much for your perspective and for your time, and we will just put a comma here and talk at another time, if that's okay with you.
That's great. Yeah, thanks, Cari. Thanks, Al.
Excellent. So send me those links. Send me those links. I'll put them underneath the YouTube, and people can watch that.
May I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
May I make one parting comment?
Sure.
I don't know how many people will see this, but for those Trump supporters who keep falling off the train, I just want to tell you, you were on the edge. You may not know it. You were on the edge, and that means the whole world was on the edge of a cliff. Because if America goes, that's it. That's the last. That's the last bastion. And you've got a guy who has essentially retired from his billionaire lifestyle to put his skills that he has developed over a lifetime into clawing back, and the wins have been astonishing. And I want to, I sometimes want to slap Ann Coulter. I want to, I don't understand these people who can one moment trust in Trump, and the next moment, because on a spending bill which wasn't even his, it was the last of the Obama budget, and he managed to get so many wins for the country. Even so. Why continue to fixate on every little thing that couldn't be done yet, when there's so much that has been done and is being done, and the intent is so clearly there? I just want to tell people, give the man a chance to work. 103 days is not what it's going to take to turn the world around.
Yeah, and I say the same thing. If you can picture the QE2 ship, you can't make it do a hairpin. You can't make it do a hairpin turn. It takes time to make big changes. Takes a lot of time, and I'm astonished that he's gotten as much done in as little time as possible.
Absolutely.
But I think for some of these commentators, it's about views and it's about clicks and these kinds of things. And so I roll my eyes, but I'm not going to tell anyone they have to get off the Trump train because they don't trust him at the same amount I do. It just means that I have to explain a little harder, and that we have to fight a little more to say, hang in there with the guy. He's on the right track. Keep your arms and legs inside the train. It's going to be a little bumpy from time to time, but he's getting us where we need to go. So just everybody sit down and be patient and enjoy the ride.
Stay on board.
Stay on board. Al, that was so well said. And Sheldon, appreciate so much both of you coming on with me tonight and talking. So like I said earlier, we'll just put a comma here and we'll talk at another time and hear more from you from South Africa. So because my heart's with you guys. It is.
Thanks, Cari.
All right.
And I've always said that you're a Texan. I've always maintained that if there's any state in America that is closely has the most affinity with South Africa, it's your state. So well, it's nice to hear you say that.
Thank you. Texas we're with you. The United States, we're with you. We're pulling for you. So
great.
Prayers for South Africa, and thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.